Texas seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, I request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Thank you. I rise today to sound the alarm once again on the water shortage that is plaguing South Texas and our farmers and ranchers. This is due to Mexico's lack of water deliveries despite a binding agreement with the 1944 Water Treaty. On the floor this week, we will vote on the 2025 Foreign Operations Appropriations Bill. This legislation includes language to withhold all, and I repeat, all foreign aid to Mexico until the Mexican government delivers our water. I was proud to help secure the language in the appropriations bill, and I hope that it sends a loud message to the Mexican government that we demand our water and we demand it now. This emergency has already killed the sugar industry in the Rio Grande Valley, and I will not stand by as it destroys our citrus industry. Thank you. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman
from Texas, Representative De La Cruz, the author of this resolution?
The gentlewoman from Texas is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Today I rise in support of House Resolution 683. This is a matter of the utmost importance that it impacts the lives and livelihoods of families in South Texas and across all of America. The ongoing drought and resulting water scarcity in the Rio Grande Valley represents a crisis for our farmers and our communities. Under the 1944 Water Treaty, our neighbors in Mexico have pledged to supply the United States of America with an average of 350,000 acre-feet of water annually over a 5-year cycle. Unfortunately, there have been consistent delays in meeting these obligations, which have severely affected American agriculture. The absence of adequate water threatens to drastically reduce their yields, potentially cutting their usual production in half. This situation poses a threat not only to local communities, but also to our national food security, escalating the costs for American families and increasing our reliance on imported produce. This shortfall is also leading to stringent water restrictions in our community, further burdening families and businesses. It is therefore incumbent upon the Mexican government to fulfill their treaty obligations. It is not fair for American families, American farmers, and ranchers to be penalized due to non-compliance by Mexico. In response to this pressing issue, I introduced this bipartisan House resolution which expresses support for the diplomatic relations necessary to ensure Mexico adheres to the 1944 Water Treaty. This resolution emphasizes the need for consistent water delivery to the United States and encourages renewed commitments to uphold the annual water deliveries. I want to express my sincere thanks to the bipartisan coalition of House members, including my esteemed colleague Henry Cuellar, for their support in bringing the resolution to the House floor. Additionally, I would like to also thank my fellow Texan, Chairman Michael McCall, for his efforts with this resolution. I encourage my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support this bipartisan House resolution. Again, it is crucial that the 1944 Water Treaty be honored, as it provides vital support for American farmers who are pivotal in sustaining our nation's food supply. On behalf of my community and all of South Texas, I thank you for your attention to this urgent matter. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields.
And the gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from Texas, Representative De La Cruz.
The gentlelady from the great state of Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you for yielding. This is a subject that is very, very close to me in my community. I'm on the border of Texas, over 80% of my district being Hispanic, and this is a resolution that I strongly support. In fact, as I listen to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, where they say this is campaigning and politically motivated, not only am I deeply offended, but the American people are deeply offended by those comments. Why? Because we are not rushing to recess to campaign. We are rushing to our districts to calm our communities down that very soon there will be a change in administration, that there will be a change in political thought, and that we will have a president come January that will care about our borders and that will care about our national security. It is an insult to the American people that Kamala Harris and the Biden administration have not cared about our national security, that they have allowed millions of illegal immigrants come to our border. And perhaps my colleague from Mississippi hasn't been to Eagle Pass, Texas, or Del Rio, Texas, and seen the kids. Let's talk about false claims here. Kids in cages? No, sir. Not kids in cages. Let's talk about the kids who are missing in America, who are sex trafficked. Let's talk about those kids under the Biden-Harris administration. But we forget about those thoughts. It is an insult of what I'm hearing across the aisle about our border and the lack of national security that has been caused by the Biden-Harris administration. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields.
The gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. De La Cruz, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an important hearing that we're having today, and something that is near and dear to my heart, living in deep South Texas, where the population is close to 90% Hispanic. I thank the Secretary for appearing for us, or before us today. Secretary Fudge, this committee has rightfully been focused on housing affordability and the historic pressures on consumers are facing today. However, given the magnitude of federal dollars that is sent to your department, the housing affordability discussion cannot be had effectively without HUD's commitment to be better stewards of our tax dollars and root out waste, fraud, and abuse where found. Would you agree with that?
I would. I wish somebody would tell me where the waste, fraud, and abuse is.
So you have not found any kind of waste, fraud, or abuse in your time there? Interesting. I'm going to leave that right there, because I think that when you come back, as you have said you would, on a yearly basis, we'll be able to point out some waste, fraud, and abuse that has been found in HUD. And I think that might be helpful for you in your tenure.
It would.
Look, it has been mentioned that as of March 2023, HUD has nearly 1,000 open recommendations from HUD's own Inspector General. Recommendations that have cost taxpayers billions of dollars due to HUD's historic unwillingness to act on these. Now, Secretary Fudge, you mentioned you inherited many of these recommendations, but given the importance of the Office of the Inspector General, do you believe that recommendations made by their office should be mandatory?
I would say you're looking at a report from March 2023. If you would ask the IG today, she would say to you that we have closed 1,000 of those recommendations.
Well, we just pulled the record, and there's still close to 800 that are open.
Because we had almost 2,000.
But there's still 800 that are
And
open.
we are working every day.
Do you have a deadline by which those will be closed?
Do I have a date by which they will be closed?
Yes.
I don't, but I can certainly give you an idea once we go back and see which ones are still outstanding.
I think that would be fair. Thank you. Given the sheer amount of unaddressed OIG recommendations, it is not hard to believe stories I'm hearing from communities across my district regarding HUD's management of specifically the grant programs. I actually wrote you a letter recently concerning Texans and a HUD grant program that is administered by Community Development Block Grant Mitigation Program. I sent you a letter on November 6th outlining the urgency of this matter. In short, communities in my district and all across Texas have been waiting for years for HUD to release millions of dollars they have already been awarded for much needed disaster mitigation. This amounts to tens of millions of dollars for communities in my district alone, many of which are rural, underserved communities that do not otherwise have the excess resources needed to complete these projects. Are you familiar with the urgency that this has caused my communities, not only in my district, but all across Texas?
We're very disappointed that the GLO has not distributed those funds. We are not holding the funds. Those funds are in Texas with the GLO and have been in Texas for years.
So can I have your commitment to work with our office in order to see where the finger pointing is here? Because we have information that says it's being held up by your office and you're pointing the finger at Texas. Quite frankly, our community doesn't have time to play political games of finger pointing. What we need to do is get our communities the much needed resources and grant money that was supposed to come to them. With that, I yield back.
Hello, Milwaukee. On behalf of the great state of Texas, it is an honor to be with you tonight. I am the proud granddaughter of Mexican farm workers who came here with little more than faith in God. They never had much money, but they instilled in us strong Texas values. They taught me that through hard work, anything is possible in America. And then I proved it by getting myself through school and building a successful small business. It wasn't easy, but I'm living proof that the American dream, el sueño americano, can become reality. Only in America can a little girl from South Texas go from watching her abuelo pick watermelons to serving in the people's house. Now, as a mother, I often think about my kids' future, and I'm worried. The American dream is slipping away. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris make it impossible for hardworking Americans like the people in my community to get ahead. Their policies put home ownership out of reach. Wages can't keep up with inflation. They give benefits to illegal immigrants and cut Medicare Advantage for our seniors. They say their immigration policies are compassionate, but there's nothing compassionate about open borders. They threaten our national security, flood our country with deadly drugs, killing our precious children. Biden and Harris don't care about immigrants. They just use them for political gain. We deserve so much better. We must make America strong again by re-electing President Trump. Under his leadership, we can put hardworking Americans first again. End this border crisis. We can restore peace and prosperity, creating an amazing future with endless possibilities. And we can rebuild the most vital institution of all, the American family. Together, we can turn Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's national nightmare into a revival of the American dream. Thank you, Milwaukee. Good night.
I yield 5 minutes to my friend and colleague, the gentlelady from Texas, who is the author of this resolution.
The gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you to my friend for yielding. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of House Resolution 1065, which is critical to addressing one of the most pressing challenges of our time, the unprecedented crisis at our southern border. This resolution is not just a condemnation of this administration's policies, but a call to action, a plea for a return to responsibility, security, and the rule of law. The Biden administration's approach to border security, marked by its relentless pursuit of political correctness at the expense of common sense and American lives, has reached a point of abject failure. This was made painfully clear by the president's abhorrent recent statements, where he felt compelled to apologize for accurately identifying a murderer as an illegal immigrant. Let me be very clear. As a granddaughter of Mexican immigrants myself, I am very proud of our heritage. In fact, the community where my family and I live is over 90% Hispanic, and I have yet to encounter anyone outside of 3 or 4 activists here in Washington, D.C. who are offended by calling Laken Riley's killer exactly what he is, an illegal immigrant who is a murderer. In fact, where I'm from, being called an illegal immigrant is perhaps the kindest thing we would say about such a despicable individual who is a murderer. The outrage seems reserved for those who are out of touch with the realities of everyday Americans, including the vast majority of Hispanics who are sick and tired of extremists using our culture as a shield for their radical open borders agenda. President Biden's apology is emblematic of a broader issue. Our border policy, just like everything else with this administration, is not dictated by the needs of Americans, but by the whims of D.C. insiders and the elitists who just don't care about working Americans. Their policies have jeopardized the safety and well-being of both American families and the migrants and children who are being exploited by the ruthless cartels. This resolution once again brings to light the harrowing reality that under President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas' watch, our nation has witnessed the worst border crisis in American history. The resolution is clear on its demands. It is time for this administration to uphold its responsibilities. We must initiate asylum cooperative agreements with safer partner countries, expedite removal authority judiciously, and ensure that those not admissible are detained as federal law requires. This is not merely a question of immigration policy, but of national security, public safety, and basic human dignity. I respectfully implore my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support House Resolution 1065. Let us send a resounding message to the safety and security of American citizens that the safety and security of American citizens are non-negotiable. We deserve a sensible, secure, and humane immigration system. For the sake of our nation, for the protection of our citizens, and the integrity of our borders, I urge you to support this resolution. Thank you. I yield back.
The lady yields back. The gentleman from South Carolina.